Sarah sets her alarm for 5 a.m. She says, I'll wake up at 5 a.m. every day starting tomorrow. A huge goal, but is it realistic?
That's a classic mistake. Most people quit by day 3. Sarah's ignoring her current fitness level. She's going from 0 to 30 minutes. It's like trying to run a marathon without training. The brain sees the huge jump and rebels immediately.
She runs the first morning. Her mind says this is too much, but she forces herself to finish barely. Afterward, she collapses on the couch, questioning her goal.
Even though she finished, the pain is evidence. Her muscles ache. She's exhausted before the day starts. 30 minutes is too much for a beginner. The habit won't stick if it's that hard every time. Starting smaller would have prevented this.
And that's the consequence. Without a gradual build, she's setting herself up to quit. The alarm clock becomes a source of dread, not motivation. She associates it with pain. Compare that to a 5-minute stretch, easy, inviting, repeatable. Which one builds a habit?
Sarah's eyes open just barely. She feels completely exhausted, as if she hasn't slept at all. Her body screams no, but she forces herself to drag out of bed, hoping today will be better.
She makes it outside and starts running. After just 10 minutes, she's gasping for air, exactly like yesterday. Her lungs burn and her legs feel heavy. She realizes she can't keep up. She cuts the run short and walks home, feeling defeated.
On day 3, the alarm goes off at 5 a.m. Sarah feels completely drained from the previous runs. Her body aches, her mind is foggy. By noon, she realizes she's already failed her resolution. The exhaustion won.
Now Sarah feels like a failure. She thinks she has no willpower at all. She tells herself she can't stick to anything. So she quits the habit completely. The alarm clock goes back in the drawer, and she avoids thinking about exercise. The guilt is overwhelming.
But then I make a choice. I call my friend and I admit my failure. Then he shares his own story of starting with 5 minutes. That conversation changes everything. Stay with us.
Day 2 arrives. The alarm rings at 5 a.m. Sarah opens her eyes, but her body feels like lead. She chooses to drag herself out of bed anyway.
She gets outside, but after just 5 minutes, her lungs burn. She stops, walks, and then turns back. She barely runs at all that morning. Her legs feel heavy, and she's already late for work. She returns home defeated, wondering if she can ever keep a habit.
She thinks, I can't even do 2 days. The guilt starts building, especially because she had built up the run as a huge life change. But she hasn't quit yet. The thought of giving up feels worse than the failed run itself.
Day 3. The alarm screeches at 5 a.m. Sarah's hand reaches out. She chooses to hit snooze, not once but twice. Then she rolls over and sleeps.
She wakes up at 7 a.m. with a jolt. She realizes she missed her run. The guilt is overwhelming. She thinks, I have no discipline. Have you ever felt that way? That moment of self-blame can sabotage any habit. Is it really lack of willpower or the goal being too big?
She tells herself she has no willpower. She believes the goal was too big, but instead of adjusting, she decides to give up entirely. She quits. That's a common reaction when we set unrealistic goals. So the question is, what could she have done differently? We'll see soon.
She puts the alarm clock back in the drawer, a symbol of her failure. She tells herself she'll try again next month, but deep down she feels hopeless. Have you ever done the same? That feeling of defeat is exactly what we need to avoid. Starting small is the antidote.
But then I have a moment of clarity. I picks up my phone and call my friend I admits, I tried to run every day and I failed after 2 days.
Leo listens patiently. Then he shares his own story. He says, I started with just 5 minutes of stretching a day. That's all. And it worked. Sarah is skeptical.
I ask, but will 5 minutes really make a difference? I explains, start with just 5 minutes to build the habit. Then you can do more. I decide to try.
The next morning, her alarm clock blares at 5 a.m. Sarah's eyes are heavy and her body aches. She drags herself out of bed and runs for only 10 minutes, gasping for air. By the end, she feels defeated, realizing this isn't sustainable.
Sarah slaps it off without thinking and rolls over. She sleeps through it. When she wakes up 2 hours later, she feels a wave of guilt. She decides the whole plan was a mistake, and she quits.
Sarah gives up completely. The running shoes sit unused. She tells herself she'll try again next month, but she knows she won't. The habit is already dead. She feels like a failure.
She just wants to complain. She says, I tried to run every day and I quit after 2 days. I have no willpower. I'm a failure. I listen quietly, letting her vent.
Evidence of her guilt. The alarm clock is silent in the morning. Sarah feels a sense of relief mixed with shame. She avoids looking at the clock. She tells herself she's not a morning person. The clock seems to judge her.
When a coworker asks about her New Year's resolution, she changes the subject. She doesn't want to admit she failed. She hides the running shoes in the back of the closet. They become a painful reminder.
At night, she sets the alarm for a normal hour. She feels a pang of regret. She wonders why she can't stick with anything. The alarm clock on her nightstand seems to mock her. She wishes she had started smaller.
Sarah tells herself she needs more discipline, but she doesn't know how to change. She thinks the only way is to try harder next time. She doesn't realize the approach is wrong. She's stuck in the same cycle.
She feels rested. Then she remembers her failed attempt. She sighs. The habit is gone, but the desire remains. She wishes she could find a way that works. The alarm clock is still there, useless.
This is the low point. Sarah is ready to give up on habits entirely. She doesn't know that a simple shift can change everything. She just feels defeated. But from this failure, a new idea is about to emerge. The story turns.
The alarm rings. She remembers yesterday's pain. She still gets up, but only walks a few blocks. Then she gives up. By day 3, she doesn't even hear the alarm. She sleeps through it completely.
I see Sarah looking defeated. I say I only made it 2 days. He asks if I felt exhausted. I nods. He shares his own start. 5 minutes of stretching, not running. He says that small step was the only way he stuck with it.
Sarah feels guilty. She blames herself for not having willpower. She decides the habit just isn't for her. She quits completely. The alarm clock stays quiet. She tells herself she'll try again someday, but that day seems far away.
I know that feeling all too well. He once quit after 3 days too. But he learned that the problem wasn't willpower. It was the goal itself. The plan was too big.
The alarm clock now sits on her nightstand, unused. Sarah avoids looking at it. She feels guilty every time she walks past. The silence reminds her of her failure.
I see the alarm clock in my room. He knows it's a symbol. He suggests that maybe starting smaller would be better. Sarah looks doubtful. I think 5 minutes won't make a difference. But I insist it's the key to consistency.
Sarah finally opens up to Leo. She admits her failure and says she's hopeless. Leo listens. Then he tells her his own story. He started with just 5 minutes. That small step changed everything. Sarah is curious, but skeptical. She wonders if it's enough.
I stretched for 5 minutes every morning. Then I added time. It worked because I didn't overwhelm myself. Sarah listens, unsure. She wonders if it could really work for her disappointment.
Sarah has a choice. She can keep believing she needs a big effort or try Leo's tiny method. She remembers her failed run. The alarm clock is still there. She decides she has nothing to lose.
I smiles. He knows this is the start. Stick with it for 1 week. Sarah nods. I sets the alarm for a later time. The alarm clock feels like a friend now. A new chapter begins.
So Sarah finally opened up to Leo. She told him she felt like a failure. He listened quietly and then shared his own story of starting with just 5 minutes. This honest conversation gave her a new idea.
I told her about my own journey. I started with just 5 minutes of stretching every morning. The first week was surprisingly easy, and I never missed a day. After a month, I naturally wanted to do more. That small step built the habit without any pressure.
The evidence was clear. Sarah's big plan failed, but Leo's tiny one worked. That contrast made her stop and think. Why? Because starting small reduces the risk of burnout. So I asked her, what if you tried just 5 minutes a day? That question sparked a new approach.
Exactly. My evidence was personal because I failed the same way Sarah did. I didn't just read about starting small, I actually woke up and stretched for 5 minutes every day for a month. That first-hand experience made my advice feel real to her, not just theory. When I told her my story, she could see that someone like her had succeeded, and that planted the seed of possibility.
The consequence was that Sarah became curious. She started to doubt her old belief that you have to do a lot to make progress. Instead of thinking, I need to run for 30 minutes or it's worthless, She began wondering if 5 minutes of stretching could actually lead somewhere. Her mind opened just enough to consider a new approach, and that tiny shift was the turning point.
And that's exactly what Sarah did. She was doubtful, sure, but that doubt was a good sign. It meant she wasn't blindly dismissing my idea. She was actually considering it. Considering is the first step to commitment.
So, what happened next? The trigger was when Sarah decided to set her alarm for just 5 minutes of stretching. A tiny goal. But this time, she had a plan. She told herself, I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit. That small commitment made all the difference.
Right. The moment I saw her change that alarm from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., I knew she was serious. It wasn't about the time anymore, it was about starting small and actually following through. That simple adjustment showed real commitment.
That choice was crucial. She could have gone back to her old all-or-nothing mindset, but instead, she chose the tiny step. It's a brave decision to start smaller than you think. That first morning, she proved that consistency matters more than intensity.
And on day 1, she did it. She stretched for just 5 minutes. It felt easy. She didn't hate it. That first success built momentum. Think about it. She proved to herself she could show up. That's the key. Even 5 minutes a day counts. That's the phrase to remember.
Exactly. Now she's committed to that tiny goal. She's starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit. Say it with me, I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day.
Right. And notice her choice. She didn't do more. She stuck to the plan. That discipline is what builds the habit. Starting small is the secret. She proved to herself she could do it.
Exactly. And here's the evidence. She feels good about herself. She's not dreading tomorrow morning. That's the power of a tiny win. It creates momentum without burnout. That's the key. So simple. Yes.
So the consequence? She's ready for day 2. No stress. That's the habit forming. And she knows she can do it. That's the power of starting small. One tiny step at a time.
Exactly. She built confidence. The alarm wasn't scary anymore. It became a signal for something achievable. That's the payoff of a manageable goal. She proved she can stick with it. And that is the foundation of any lasting habit.
Sarah thought, this is too easy. I can do more. That was the trigger. She fell into the trap of thinking more is better. We all do it.
And she made the choice. She decided to do 30 minutes instead. She ignored the plan completely. That one decision broke her streak. She thought she was being efficient. But it backfired. Bad move.
She did 30 minutes, and it was tough. Then the next morning, she slept through the alarm. She missed her 5-minute window. And with that, the streak was broken.
So the action. She overdid it and then quit. She felt like a failure all over again. That's the pattern. But here's the lesson. You have to build the habit first, then increase. If you skip that step, you're back to square one. Did Sarah learn? She did, eventually. But not before falling into the same trap.
And that's how she broke the streak. She went from 5 minutes to nothing. The habit was gone, just like that. But she learned the hard way that consistency matters more than intensity. We'll see what she does next.
So here's the evidence. On day 2, after her tiny 5-minute workout, she thinks, this is too easy. I should do more. She does 30 minutes instead. That's the classic mistake. She ignores the plan completely.
And the result? She misses her 5-minute window entirely. The streak is dead. She proves that bigger isn't better. But she also proves how easily we sabotage ourselves.
So the consequence is clear. She breaks the streak and feels defeated again. She thinks, I can't do this. But it's not about willpower. It's about the plan.
So Sarah calls me. She's frustrated. She needs to understand why she failed again. That's the trigger. Now listen and repeat. Start smaller than you think. Start smaller than you think.
I explain the key insight. Consistency matters more than intensity. That's the lesson. Now you try. Consistency over intensity. Consistency over intensity.
I give her a choice. She can try again with just 5 minutes. I say, even 5 minutes a day counts. Your turn. Even 5 minutes a day counts. Even 5 minutes a day counts.
She decides to commit to just 5 minutes. I coach her. Build the habit first, then increase. Now you repeat. Build the habit first, then increase. Build the habit first, then increase.
She sets her alarm for just 5 minutes. She's ready. Say it with me. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit.
She does the 5 minutes. She's building the habit. Listen and repeat. Start smaller than you think. Start smaller than you think.
The evidence is clear. She sticks to it. She proves that small works. Now you repeat. Consistency over intensity. Consistency over intensity.
Just 5 minutes every day builds the habit. You might want to start smaller than you think. You might want to start smaller than you think.
She gets it. Doing a little every day beats doing a lot once. Repeat after me. Build the habit first, then increase. Build the habit first, then increase.
She sets her alarm for 5 minutes. She says, I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit. Listen and repeat that line. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit.
She's committed. That's her new rule. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit.
She chooses exactly 5 minutes, not more. That's the hard part. Even 5 minutes a day counts. Even 5 minutes a day counts.
Day 1 done. Exactly 5 minutes. It felt easy, but she stuck to the plan. Consistency over intensity. Consistency over intensity.
Day 2. She resists the urge to do more. 5 minutes again. She proves she can be consistent. Build the habit first, then increase.
Day 3. She's tempted to skip, but she does it anyway. That's real progress. You might want to start smaller than you think. You might want to start smaller than you think.
A week goes by. She hasn't missed a day. The evidence is clear. Small steps work. I used to think I needed to do a lot, but now I know better. I used to think I needed to do a lot, but now I know better.
Sarah has a streak. She feels proud. Now you say, start smaller than you think. Start smaller than you think.
Let's slow down and practice the key phrase. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit. Now repeat it after me. Ready? Go. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit.
The alarm rings. Sarah feels a wave of boredom. She thinks, this is too easy, maybe I should do more. That's the trigger. Consistency over intensity. Your turn. Consistency over intensity.
She's standing by her yoga mat. The thought whispers, just do 10 minutes, it's better. That's the second trigger. She almost gives in. Now you say, start smaller than you think. Start smaller than you think.
But then I remembers my advice. I pauses. I chooses to do just 5 minutes. That's a big choice. You might want to start smaller than you think. You might want to start smaller than you think.
She gets on the mat. The first minute feels pointless. But she keeps going. To stay consistent. Even 5 minutes a day counts. Even 5 minutes a day counts.
The boredom fades. She realizes she's enjoying it. To finish strong, build the habit first, then increase.
The timer goes off. 5 minutes done. She feels accomplished. But now a new choice. Should she do more? She decides not. That is discipline. Consistency over intensity. Consistency over intensity.
Sarah puts away her mat. She marks day 3 in her calendar. The streak continues. This action proves she can stick with it. I used to think I needed to do a lot, but now I know better. I used to think I needed to do a lot, but now I know better.
She closes the calendar. A small smile. 3 days of consistency. The habit is no longer a chore. Even 5 minutes a day counts. One more time. Even 5 minutes a day counts.
Day 3 is done. Sarah has proven she can stick with it. The key action, she did it despite boredom. Let's practice the mindset one more time. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit.
She starts stretching, but her mind wanders. She thinks this is boring. Yet she keeps going. The timer counts down. She stays on the mat. Consistency over intensity. Consistency over intensity.
Sarah does not stop. The boredom almost wins, but she remembers why she started. She completes the stretch. The alarm did not reset. She proves something. Even 5 minutes a day counts. Even 5 minutes a day counts.
See how she pushes through the boredom? That is the real habit. Not the stretch itself, but deciding to show up anyway. This builds trust. Consistency over intensity. Consistency over intensity.
On day 3, the novelty is gone. Only the commitment remains. Sarah feels the pull of comfort, but she ignores it. That is the moment habits grow. Say after me. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit.
The alarm clock is now a friend, not a villain. It reminds her of her promise. She does not need motivation, she needs discipline. Build the habit first, then increase.
Day 3 is almost over. Sarah has not broken her streak. The boredom was a test. She passed. That is how you make a habit automatic. Start smaller than you think. Start smaller than you think.
She finishes day 3 stronger. The habit is hers. She knows she can rely on herself. I used to think I needed to do a lot, but now I know better. I used to think I needed to do a lot, but now I know better.
Day 3 done. The streak is 3 days. Sarah feels a shift. She no longer dreads the mat. She looks forward to it. That is the payoff of consistency. Consistency over intensity. Consistency over intensity.
She closes her eyes for 5 minutes of calm. The alarm clock is silent. She has won the day. The habit is no longer fragile. Even 5 minutes a day counts. Even 5 minutes a day counts.
After 1 week, she moves to 10 minutes. The habit feels solid. She expands without fear. The clock is now a symbol. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day.
So after 1 week, Sarah chooses to extend to 10 minutes. She made that choice because the habit feels solid. She trusts herself now. Build the habit first, then increase.
And she calls us up. It worked, she says. I stuck with 5 minutes for a whole week, and now I'm doing 10 without effort. You might want to start smaller than you think.
That's amazing. You proved that starting small builds momentum. How does it feel to finally have a habit that lasts? That's a huge shift. Research suggests starting small is more sustainable.
Here's the evidence. She didn't miss a single day. The streak itself became the reward. And the alarm clock? I used to think I needed to do a lot, but now I know better.
So now Sarah is the one giving advice. She tells her colleagues, I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit. Her success inspires them. Start smaller than you think.
That's exactly it. The phrase, I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day becomes her go-to. She says it to herself every morning. Even 5 minutes a day counts.
And now, when a friend struggles with starting to exercise, she says, you might want to start smaller than you think. Even 5 minutes a day. Build the habit first, then increase.
I'll use it too. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit. Listen, I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day. Your turn. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit.
Research backs this up. Starting with a very small, consistent action is more sustainable. Sarah's experience is proof. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit.
So the lesson is clear. Tiny steps lead to big changes. Sarah's alarm clock now rings for 10 minutes, and she answers with confidence. Start smaller than you think.
Look at Sarah's alarm clock now. It used to be set for 5 a.m., remember? Now it's set for a comfortable 7:30. That small shift shows her new habit is working.
Exactly. That clock isn't a tormentor anymore. It's a reminder that she starts with just 5 minutes and keeps going.
And she doesn't even think about it now. She wakes up, stretches for 5 minutes, and moves on. The alarm is just a gentle nudge.
I saw her yesterday. She said, I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day to build the habit. And she did it without hesitation. That's the payoff.
Her morning routine is solid now. She told me she actually looks forward to those 5 minutes. That's the evidence the habit is formed.
So the alarm clock isn't a symbol of failure anymore. It's a symbol of her tiny step that grew into a lasting habit.
Let's wrap up with a big lesson. Tiny steps lead to big changes over time. Sarah stopped trying to run 30 minutes at 5 a.m. She started with just 5 minutes of stretching. Now she's up to 10 and still going. That's the power of consistency over intensity.
And that's the phrase to remember. I'm starting with just 5 minutes a day. Say it out loud. It's your permission slip to begin without pressure. That's how habits actually stick.
We've seen it work for Sarah. Now it's your turn. Think of one habit you've been putting off because it feels too big. Apply this principle. Start with just 5 minutes a day. Be consistent. The change will come naturally.
So remember the moral of Sarah's story. Tiny steps lead to big changes over time. Her alarm clock now rings for 10 minutes, and she answers with confidence. You can do the same. Start with just 5 minutes today. Your future self will thank you.